giving you a voice,
making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
We're going to recap the 2019 season a bit, but we're going to take a different approach, I think. So we're going to talk about, we've all been around for a long time. Myself, 2001, Mike and Justin. When were you guys? 2005?
2005,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. We're starting to be in first longer than these kids have been alive.
Okay.
Put that in perspective.
That's a whole fact. That's true.
So with that said, we're going to jump into how we broke down the 2018 game. And Justin, I want to start with you. We'll bring up our list. We actually went through all the seasons that we've been part of and ranked them. But Justin, I want to get your kind of your impressions on Power Up. How you felt this game, maybe compared to some others, and we can bring that up. But let's talk about just Power Up in general, how you felt this might have compared as a season overall.
So I really liked it. And we actually, on Team 3015, we just played at Ruckus this past weekend. So I got a very fresh opportunity to play the game since it had been since championship. But I really like it. The only thing that keeps it from being higher on my list is I didn't like the fact that a lot of matches were blowouts in the first, 30 seconds or so. We had in finals match 3, we had a really, really close match. It was very exciting to watch. And it just left me like, I would just wish more matches were like that. So as far as game design, I don't know what they could have done to maybe make that a little more, make some of the matches pretty close, but it's definitely in the top half of games I've been a part of, which is pretty good. I don't have a lot of love for some of the games that we might talk about, but 2018 might end up rising actually, as many of the games I have do. As you reflect on them for a while, sometimes they change on your list a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that list. So go ahead, Mike.
Do you think this game, was designed right for this teeter-totter effect? Do you think it was designed with the expectation that there would be a lot of close matches?
I think they really wanted it that way. I think they really, maybe underestimated how often the scale would be going back and forth. In matches that did go back and forth, the matches certainly were close, obviously. But
right.
You could, if I'm +1 on you for the entire match and we both score 10 cubes, but I'm always +1, we're both scoring a lot, but your score isn't rising and mine is. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks of the time-based scoring that they had. But I like that. I mean, it was time for a new scoring mechanism in first, and for something, first doesn't always do brand new things really well, but I think this one was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, I think this point not being on a team this point in the season, kind of like I forget the ins and outs about the game, so I think it was an exciting game. I'm trying to remember where I put this on my list. I think upper third, somewhere in the middle. It was exciting. Like you said, sometimes it's just over and it's just pretty boring at times. But a lot of dynamics to the game, a lot of moving pieces, which I don't think I was a fan of at first. And I think I was as an observer. I don't think I wasn't a fan of it at first, but it was a lot, I think, more simple to follow than I originally thought. But overall, not bad. There's been, I think, in my opinion, there's been better games and there's been worse games. So somewhere in the middle of the pack there for me.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tyler?
So Power Up, it's a game that I think looks really good on paper, but has some critical flaws to it. Is kind of the way that I looked at it. I have it about right in the middle of my pack too. And like I said, we'll go through all these lists in a little bit. And audience, we'd love to hear from you where you think Power Up falls. Now, some of you might only have a year or two under your belt for something like that, but unlike us old farts, but we still like to hear about it. There's two ways I typically judge a game: is how does it play at a regional or district level, and then how did it play on Einstein, right? Because you get the two sides of like, was it super exciting? And honestly, Einstein or even like IRI or something like that, it wasn't that much more exciting in my opinion than what the regular one. That was a comment I made at IRI this year, is that IRI, I love it. It's the most competitive event, I think, period, in first. And it really wasn't that much more competitive. There wasn't really anything like super special this year. I would have loved to see, put like a 5-pound cube on there or something like that. But
cool.
Some sort of special. I would have liked to see, like in the normal game, I would like to see some sort of special Power Up cube or something like that. That would have added a bit more to something like this. At a base level, there's a couple things that I will say at a base regional level, it was more competitive than most years. I think coming into a week 1, week 2 event, you could get an alliance that could score on maybe level 2 a cube. So you're talking, maybe 7 to 9 cubes during a match at regionals. There's some, outliers out there as well too, but excuse me. One of the things that to me that I think Justin on the head is it's a game that's potentially done in less than 30 seconds. And then what's the excitement for something like that? Where's what keeps you going further and further on that as well? So, yeah, I put it in the middle, something like that. So Justin, let's take a look at your rankings here. We're going to throw those up on the screen. And I think we have some debate to go through for this for sure. Where some of these games might lie for some of us on here. So these are our Justin's rankings. Why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown on where Power Up landed and a few other highlights for you?
So you can see Power Up there 6, which games that I like at the time tend to rise over time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, if you asked us to do this a year or 2 years from now, that Power Up might be a little bit higher. But for me, I love Rebound Rumble. I think it was just a perfectly designed game. There were tasks that most teams could kind of find a role in. It wasn't a we're just our 2 teams are going to dominate. You can go sit in the corner kind of deal. The defense mechanism was well designed with the safety, with the key being safe and those kind of things. I just think Rebound Rumble was fantastic. And as far as endgame excitement, balancing on the ramps was just a really, really cool thing. It was pretty new at the time. They kind of did it in like 2002 or 2001, I think. But it was really well done. I'll always love that game. And it was the game that Mike and I got our first regional win. So I think that helps. That helps a little bit too.
So for those of you doing the math, it took 7 years. But.
Yeah. And I don't hide from that fact. I share it with their first year students all the time that winning for some teams takes time. Aim high, I guess it just, ultimately, if you look at my top 3 games, I guess like shooting mechanism games I tend to like, even though maybe we're not necessarily always very good at it. And then we'll get to the one that I think is going to cause us the most debate here, is 2015. I actually really liked that game. I didn't think I was going to like it at the time, but I really ended up liking it toward the end of the year. And I think it was because it created a lot of really diverse robots. If you look at what 148 did and some other teams did, I think it was really cool. If you look at what Wave Robotics had, a very unique robot that year as well, with the CAN autonomous that they had. So I think that, and the fact that defense was left out of it, you could really just have your alliance kind of play your game and try to execute versus the other alliance without any interference. And it was just a game of kind of who executed best.
Oh, Mike, I actually skipped onto yours right away, and I apologize for doing that. So
I was just saying, wow. I was like, wow.
I clicked on it. That's why. But
I was like, 2015. That was 11. I don't like it that much.
I do love somebody's comment that asks, "Is this a random number generated list or an RNG list?" So
that's funny.
Breaking down, Mike. Do you want to talk about yours?
So I'm kind of with Justin. Can you put mine up because I forgot what I did. Thanks. So I really liked Aim High. It was my, I think, and you kind of hit it, Justin, too. I think people like different years for different reasons. I think some people have more fun years because the robot did better, so they like that year better.
Yeah.
So 2006 was my second year as a student, first year on the drive team, and that aside, I just love shooting games. The field was wide open. There was literally like nothing on the field except the end little ramps. And it was just like outshoot them. And the concept with the one, defense robot hanging back, and there's just a lot of back and forth and just pure muscle and power and stuff. I think so. That was really nice. 2014, it was a similar game, kind of wide open field. Things are flying all over the place. And then same thing with 2013. You had, robots climbing up, pyramids and frisbees flying everywhere. Then kind of my least favorite triple play was my first year. A robot was terrible. This was not a fun year. That middle of the pack, I mean, it's kind of, I was playing around in Excel, like moving years around, and I just kind of I was just like, all right, this is what it's going to be at this point. That middle of the pack, I mean, for me, it's just, you could probably interchange any of those in the middle there. There's different aspects I like of some and didn't like of others. And then just I did not like 2010 Breakaway. It's just that was pretty boring.
I think we all share that, except for Caltran apparently. So
yeah,
and I think Pauline said she liked it too.
Yeah, it's okay.
Can't all be perfect.
Yeah, and so that's what's good. There's different aspects to all the games. So, what about you, Tyler?
I got to ask you guys first. Can you, Mike? You described a little bit about 2005, but 2005 was a year for me where it was the least involved I was in first. It was a year after I graduated, so I volunteered a little bit, but I wasn't nearly. I didn't really start emceeing or anything like that too much. So, what was it about 2005 that you guys just didn't like overall?
For me, I just like Mike said, our robot was really terrible. And at least at the that was also the first year of the Finger Lakes Regional, so it was the first time a lot of teams in Rochester in our area really competed, and just the level of play was not that high. I mean, 217 Thunder Chickens and 229 Division by Zero, they were just the class of the event, and it was pretty clear that everyone else was really struggling. So just the gameplay wasn't very much fun for us to watch at all, and it was really before the time of the really where so many events are webcasted. So really that was like the only match play you got to see until we got to championship.
Sure.
Yeah. And the Einstein matches were pretty good. That's the year that the beach spots were really good and like that. But yeah, it was a rough first event for the Rochester area.
Yeah. Just not very exciting, and like you said, for like two bifold. Like our robot wasn't good, the event wasn't that great, and we weren't stacking very high, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So my rankings, it's interesting because I think we actually have some similarities. I think 2015 is the real outlier here on any of these between Mike, myself, and Justin. But looking, 2013 to me is one of the most complete games I think I've ever seen. It has a lot that I like. I do like the climbing. I look at it both ways. Like, what would I like to drive in? What would I like to play if I was a first person? What would I like to see if I have no clue what's going on?
That's a good way to put it.
Right?
Yeah.
And to me, 2013 kind of presents a complete package because you get the shoot, you can do things full court, which was an interesting way to go. The climbing was really cool. Honestly, one of the coolest things about climbing, teams falling, like it's entertaining, right? It sucks, but it's entertaining nonetheless. I really like 2012 as well with Rebound Rumble. I know it gets some flack for things, but I thought at a championship level, the play for it was really neat. The strategy of do you cross, do you not cross? So how do you do it and when? I thought was really neat. The co-op bridge, was kind of all right, but I thought at playoff level, I thought it was really cool. I'm very partial to 2004, just maybe because it was my senior year, but I like that it combined.
Was a cool game.
It combined multiple games, right, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
To see the strategy. It was a little slow still in regards to it was 2v2, it was only in the second year of autonomous, that sort of thing. And I'm a fan of Aim High as well. Like, I know Aim High gets a lot of flack from the community. I thought the game was neat. There was the way the period switched, I thought kind of made it was good and bad, but I thought overall the pace of the game got to be really neat at a certain aspect.
Like we were just kind of talking about that, Justin. There was very little like chance in this past year's game to like change, to make up some ground. But in a game like that in 2006, you had a chance to kind of stockpile and get lined up where then you could maybe flip the table the other way. So each game is going to be different,
Yeah, and I like Tyler's, looking at Tyler's rankings here. If I had to think of like, the certain, you could always rank them by like for Endgame, for example. Like if you looked at purely at Endgame, 2011 Logo Motion, the mini bots, I loved it. It was really,
and some people hated it, right?
Some people hated it, absolutely.
It was the part I liked least.
It was almost like the scoring mechanisms this year. It was just so different that it was really, really fun to tackle. And I think first, like you mentioned, we're old guys at this point. We look at the years on the screen. I think to keep us kind of around and excited, first has to continue to kind of reinvent themselves and think of different things to do with the games. And I think for the most part, they've done a really good job. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to 2019.
Yeah. I mean, because then there's some years you're like, man, I really wish I could just watch robots perform all by themselves, and then we got that one year. Yep. And then so that's a great point, Justin. There's a good mix in here.
I just want to touch on a couple last things. 2018 to me, first power up, like I said, sits about right in the middle. It's a meh game to me. There's some neat things about it. There's other games I like better. My bottom two are by far, even my bottom three are by far my bottom, even my bottom four, bottom five, even by far my bottom ones. Where 2001 was one of the most garbage games ever created. For those who ever have an opportunity to see it. It was a 4v0 game. You literally played against the clock, and that's what it was. Literally matches. If you were at Beatty, your match was done in about 47 seconds. I know somebody that's an old timer like me will correct me on the exact time, but it was insane. And 2015, being on Wave at the time and having probably not very arguably the best autonomous robot that year and on Einstein Finals. Man, I will always look back. I love the year for how our team did, but man, I wish we would have done that well on a different year as well, where I could have appreciated it a bit more, because that game was not very good to me. I like that you don't have to play defense, but I like that there's an opportunity to play defense, and that's what I think irks me the most for that. So we're running already short on time. I didn't even look at that, so let's move on. Is there anything else you guys want to kind of wrap up 2018 with, or should we move on to our next subjects?
Just the last thing I wanted to mention, that 2018 we had robots lifting themselves, in this case kind of lifting other robots. 2017 robots were climbing, 2016 robots were climbing. I'm kind of done with robot climbing. I think 2019 needs to be a break. If you go to 2014 no end game, that's a possibility, but we got to do something different. I'm done with climbers and climbing for a while.
Good point.
Thank you to all of our co-executive producers, keeping fun loud, live, and independent. Pledge your support at patreon.com/first updates now.